Justice Koome, some of you may already know her, but those especially in not only Kenya, but in the region. She has been a role model. She has been an icon for many, many years. She has over 32 years experience in the legal sector as a practicing attorney before she joined the judiciary as a judge of the High Court and the Court of Appeal. At the Court of Appeal, she currently heads the criminal division of the court. She holds an LLB degree from the University of Nairobi, a postgraduate diploma in law from the Kenya School of Law, and an LLM in public international law from the University of London. Judge Koome started her legal career pretty young in 1987, where she successfully founded Martha Koome Co Advocates, which was one of the very few women-led law firms at the time. This is in 1993, in Kenya. While in private practice, she distinguished herself as a defender of human rights, specializing on family law and taking up high-impact litigation geared towards the development of law on the principles of equality and non-discrimination on the basis of one's gender. Apart from family law, she also represented clients such as political detainees. And I do remember that at that time she was very young. She, together with another Kenyan icon, two women who defended one of the political detainees when many of the men were not, male lawyers were not ready to come forward to do that because it was really dangerous at that time. So she represented clients as political detainees and persons charged with politically instigated offenses during the volatile period of one-party rule in Kenya. She contributed directly to the expansion of the democratic space in Kenya in the 1990s. Judge Koome successfully represented women in precedent-setting cases in the Court of Appeal, which used to be the top court in Kenya then, on women's property rights, and was one of the leading lawyers in family law. She was the chairperson of the Federation of Kenya Women Lawyers, which is FIDA, and part of the team involved in the drafting of the Children's Act in 2001, the National Gender and Equality Commission Act 2011, the Equality Bill and Domestic Violence Bill, which became the Protection Against Domestic Violence Act in 2015, among others. She served in the Council of Law Society, becoming the first treasurer of the East Africa Law Society, and was elected by the African Heads of State Summit in 2005 in Libya to serve in the African Union Committee on the Rights and Welfare of Children, where she served for 5 years. She has made an impact in whatever position she has held. She was an elected chairperson of the Kenya Judges and Magistrates Association and appointed more recently by the Chief Justice of Kenya on behalf of the National Council for the Administration of Justice, which is NCAJ, as chairperson of the Special Task Force on Children Matters. This was a multi-sector task force which has just concluded a comprehensive review of child law, policy, rules of procedures and practice directions, infrastructure of child holding, coordination and training of actors in the juvenile justice. And the task force has prepared a report that was launched on 20th November 2019 in commemoration of the 30 years since the UN Convention on Children. And this report you can actually find even on the Jaslika website, as well as the NCAJ website. Judge, over to you.
Thank you, Sheila. That was a very generous introduction. And thank you also, Jaslika. Is my mic and everything on? Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to share this platform with such excellent panelists. And I'm very, very humbled and very, very privileged even to listen to Megan. Very, very deep conversation on gender-based violence during the crisis. I will take a small trajectory and focus on children, because I think that is now my docket at this moment. I am dealing with issues of children, and say that this pandemic has affected children more than anybody else. Not in terms of the sickness itself, because I think somehow God has been gracious. He has spared the children from the disease itself, but the implications, the effects have really affected children, because first and foremost, children are not in school. In Kenya, we are battling with many issues of children. First of all, getting our girls to school. And when they go to school, retaining them. We are battling with early pregnancies. And now when the girls are not in school, and Megan alluded to this issue of, in school they access many things. They get food, and they even get sanitary towels. Now, the poverty levels are such that when they are at home, they are not likely to get these items, and therefore they are likely to be ruined, to compromise and be exploited, sex for sanitary towels, sex for things like those. So it is a big problem that has been identified even here. Violence against children as well, because the same factors that Megan has spoken about, domestic violence, when children are at home and they are within the confines of a situation where there is violence, they also get affected. Recently, there was a meeting of the National Council on the Administration of Justice in Kenya to evaluate the situation of crime in this country. And it came out that 41% there is a spike in the increase of cases of violence against children, and defilement cases, girls who have been defiled, children who have been defiled. They noted there was an increase of 41%. That was 2 weeks ago. And like Megan noted, that there is a problem of access to justice because courts are not functioning optimally, such that if somebody is facing domestic violence at home, and the victims, the higher percentage of victims will be women and children, and they have to run to court to get a restraining order, that is becoming a challenge, because first of all, you leaving home to go to court is a problem. And when you reach the court, getting the priority of appearing before a judge or a magistrate to obtain an order is a problem. And also the execution of the order, because there is a kind of a freeze that restraining orders may become problematic, because the other side will say, look, I also want to go to court and be heard. And then the police also are not prioritizing this as the problem, because they have been mobilized to deal with the pandemic. So there is a problem of access to justice, but I heard, and we also had a meeting of the task force together with other stakeholders through this forum, and we agreed that cases of violence against children and domestic violence should be taken seriously at the police stations. And we were urging the National Council for the Administration of Justice to come up with a statement to say that domestic violence or any violence of any kind is unacceptable this particular time, to ensure that the communities, the families take the responsibility of protecting and safeguarding their children against violence. And the fact that violence is happening now when children are supposed to be in a place where they are supposed to be safe. Children are at home. They are with their communities. One would imagine this is the safest place and safest environment for a child to be. But that is not the case. The cases of violence against children have escalated. So who is to blame? And we asked the National Council on the Administration of Justice to visit responsibility on the families and the communities. We have a kind of a structure in Kenya of managing, families or communities called recommendations and resolutions that should be passed by the National Council on the Administration of Justice, that priority should be given to cases involving children, because these are not the only problems that children are encountering. There are children also in the justice system who have been caught up in this melee. And if you're talking about children in the institutions of justice, they have been locked there in such that they cannot leave. And even if more children are rescued and need protection, especially those who have been rescued from violence homes or environment, and they need to be put in a safe place, those institutions are not opening up to children from outside because they are saying they are fearing contamination. So we also urged that there should be a midway house, a quarantine place where children can be held for the time being for protection, because there are many children who have been rescued from violent situations, but they are hanging with some unknown people. Maybe police are told, go back with them, so we don't know where those children are. So moving forward, the biggest challenge we have is access to justice. And because now what is being offered is online services, and the majority of our people cannot access, digitalized a way of serving documents or filing documents or having a webinar meeting so that they can conduct their cases. So these are the challenges we are coming across to mitigate the violence that is being visited on the families and children. Thank you.
For that very comprehensive presentation, and based on what is actually happening on the ground in the child justice system. It's like Megan had said earlier, there are consequences that are short-term and long-term, and some consequences that we do not even anticipate. Like what the example you gave of children who are being rescued now, and existing institutions don't even want to take them on. Now, there's one question maybe related to that you haven't touched on, that is children with disabilities. What is the situation of children with disabilities now? Because are there any kind of support that you were able to provide, or even identification of these children, because they're very much at risk?
Yes, a very critical question at this moment, because children with disabilities are likely to be forgotten. One, because obviously children are vulnerable, they don't speak for themselves. What I have gathered is that the cash transfer that is being mobilized by the government towards mitigating the suffering brought about by the pandemic is targeting households with persons with disability. And the chiefs have been told to go around and document the cases, the households that have children with disability, so that they can benefit from the cash transfer. But these are children who need more than just the cash transfers right now. There are children with the physical disability, there are children with mental disability, and there's a lot of tension this particular time. Their life has completely been destabilized. They are living in very volatile environments where there is tension and there is stress. They are not even understanding when life will be normal again, especially children who go to institutions every day for their support, or their schools or wherever they go, and they are no longer going there. They are suffering a lot of stress. And what we noted is that there is no psychosocial support or mechanisms being put in place to address, these issues. Everybody is targeting the bigger picture of the pandemic. But the kind of mobilization that we have seen to deal with the COVID as a pandemic, I submit that this is the kind of mobilization of efforts that should be put together to fight gender-based violence and violence against children. I believe if we prioritized fight against violence the same way we have targeted COVID, it would be the thing of the past. If we went to the press, in the media, to talk about violence against children, violence, gender-based violence, the same way we are talking about COVID, I believe it can be eliminated, at least a good percentage of it.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Judge. I think that's, again, another very powerful end to her presentation, where she's saying that if we put in all the efforts that we're putting into fighting COVID-19, and it's been declared a pandemic, and if we did the same, also declared GBV, violence against women and violence against children, a pandemic, maybe we would go much further than we have today.